What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be making a sick melodic techno lead. I've been using this in my own music, it's banging. I've also got to show you quite a bit with automation, so I'm going to be going through quite a lot. I'm going to try and go through it quite quickly, but obviously give you as much information as possible. So this is the lead, I'll just solo it first. Cool, so yeah, that is the sound. The melody, as you see if you look at it, is kind of random, but not random. Let's have another listen. Yeah, so it's mainly like a rhythm that is repeating over duh, 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 duh. That's basically the main thing, right? And then I'm just kind of choosing slightly random notes, but making sure that I'm returning back to this F very often because that's the root note. But yeah, when I made this melody, there wasn't any like real science behind it. I was just putting notes in random places till it sounded good. That's what I do most of the time. So yeah, let's dive into the sound. So the sound is taken from the new Melodic Techno and Trance pack, which is from PML. It will be linked down below. This template also, I think, is going to be available, so you can grab this whole track here. I think that will be linked down below. I'm going to sort that out. Here we are in Diva, and what we're going to do first is concentrate over on the oscillator section. And what the preset that I'm in now is just the initial patch in Diva. But don't worry if your initial patch doesn't like this. We're going to basically just do everything ourselves. So every section we're going to go over. So I'll be honest, when I first looked at this preset on the preset that we're working from the pack, I was a little bit confused as to how it was sounding as good as it was sounding, because there's some crazy FM and detune going on, which didn't really make any sense to my head. And to be honest, it still doesn't make much sense, but I'm going to try and explain it. So yeah, what we're doing here is we have this oscillator 1. Right, so this one here, and we're going to turn it down a little bit. We're going to go to around here. This is going to be kind of like the main oscillator we're listening to, and then we're also going to have this second oscillator here, so you can see the volumes all the way up on this one. We're going to turn this one down just a bit here, and then we're also going to pitch this one up here. So this is on a really high pitch, so we've got this kind of sound, which is all good. It's a nice sound, but now we're going to add a bit of the craziness, and the craziness is adding a huge amount of FM. Normally if you add this much FM, it will sound weird right now, but we're going to fix it. Alright, that's frequency modulation, so it's like the frequencies of this first oscillator are modulating the second and third oscillator. You can see here 1 into 2 and 3, so it affects like the tuning and the harmonics. I'll be honest, I don't fully understand the inner workings of FM, but I know what it sounds like, and it sounds like this. Well, a little bit of it can be really nice. Right, can be really nice. But in this case, we're going to have a lot of it. And then we need to basically just adjust this second oscillator here. This is the one that's creating the like kind of crazy sound. So we want to detune this by 1 semitone. And now we're getting that tone. And this, for me, I don't really understand. By detuning this, it's making it sound more in key, but it works. So we're just going to roll with it. So, right, the next thing we want to do is we're going to add a little bit of modulation to the first oscillator. So we're going to change this to LFO 2. So, and then we're going to turn this on. So what this means is that LFO 2, which is down here, is going to modulate the tuning of oscillator 1. See, these are 3 here, 3 things. We've got 3 oscillators. So it's going to modulate the tuning of oscillator 1. And this, we're going to add a little bit of it, a very small amount. At the minute, we have the settings that are down here, which are not correct, but we'll have a listen. Still sounds pretty cool. But what we're going to do is take off this delay so it happens straight away. We're going to put the restart at random, and then we're going to have a 2-to-1, I believe. Yeah, 2-to-1. So you can hear it's adding that kind of crazy detuneness, which is what we want for melodic techno. And we're going to put it on polarity, which means it's only going to detune in one direction. It's not going to go both ways. It's just going to go this way. So all we're doing is we're adding movement to the tuning of oscillator 1, which is also modulating oscillator 2. So it's all a bit crazy, all going into itself, tuning itself, and just creating this kind of crazy harmonic sound. So that's all that we want to do there with the LFO. Let's have a listen. And maybe what we want to do is just dial it back a little bit. We only want a small amount. We want it to not sound too crazy. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Now we need to adjust the kind of movement of the sound. We can also add a little bit of noise before I forget. This we're going to automate, and we can take away the feedback. Yes. Okay, so this is the area which focuses on the movement. So like if it's a plucky sound, a sustained sound, an effect or something like that, it's all kind of done in this area here. So what we want to do here is going to bring this cutoff to around the 2 mark. We're going to change this to envelope 2. And then we're going to just bring this down to around here. Yep. And now what we want to do is just change this to analog. These do change the sound drastically. This is more aggressive, this module here, but it also doesn't have any control on the release, which can be quite annoying. We want control over how long the sound lasts after we let go of the note. So in this case, we're going to have the release around here. We're going to bring the sustain down. We're going to bring the attack down, and we're going to bring the decay to around here. So we've got like a plucky sound. Okay, so we've got a plucky sound coming from envelope 1, which is the amp envelope. But we need to add a bit more attack to it to give that more of a pluck. So we're basically going to create the same kind of movement. It'll just look different on here because they're different modules. We're just going to take the sustain down. We're going to have the decay here and the attack here. So this is the same, right? The release, we're just going to put this button on. And then we're going to bring this velocity all the way down. So this just means that velocity is not going to affect the sound. You can play around with this. It can create really nice, interesting modulation onto the sound. And there we go. We're getting what we want. Okay, next thing is instead of this add, we're going to just add LFO2. So the thing that we've created here, this movement, we're going to add a little bit of that to the sound. So you can hear it's going dum 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 dum. It's moving up and down. It's basically opening this a little bit with this timing here. And it's also kind of random, so it's just making it a bit unpredictable. Okay, so the last thing is adding a bit of FM here. So that's the FM from here. The frequency modulation is now modulating the cutoff filter as well. It gives a bit more grit and bite. Okay, next we're going to do the effects. So let's go here, add some delay. And the delay, we're going to high pass. It's always good to try and high pass the delays. So we're going to put this high pass up, which is the same as doing a high pass. So we're like bringing this up, but just on the delay. And we're going to bring this low pass down here. So we're just really getting like the middle of the sound. And then we're going to bring, the side volume up, feedback really high. Okay, and for the delay times, we want these to all be on 3. So they're all the same, basically. See that? No center volume, just a little bit of side volume. Yeah, nice. Okay, next thing we want to add, we've got the reverb already, but we're just going to adjust this a little bit. So we want more dry, so it's not too washed out. Add a little bit more of the wet, and everything else we can leave as it is. Take away the diffusion. Increase the diffusion to 100. Okay, now we're going to add a little finishing touches to the sound, and this is just going to be playing with the voicing. It's going to make it a bit bigger, so we are going to need to adjust the volume, but first we're going to stack these 8 voices. So you'll see if you look here on the trimmers, the sound will cycle through 8 voices. And what it's doing right now is it's playing them 3 at a time. And with with Diva, what it does automatically in the initial patches, it randomizes all the voicing on the oscillators. Like they're all just kind of random and all over. So it just makes the sound constantly different. Different, but still the same, right? It's not like so crazy and all over the place. And you can increase that by increasing it. That's just a bit much. Now, me personally, I don't want this much delay, but on the original, that's what was on there. But I'm just going to bring this down a bit. The feedback's a bit much. Yeah, there we go. Okay, one other thing here is if we go to the panning, we can make the sound pan with the stacking that we're doing. So it can pan with the voices. So if we just increase this, now it's going to dance between the voices on the sides. You can hear it if you've got headphones or on monitors. Okay. You can go a little bit further with the sound if you want to, and on this modifications thing here, you can kind of increase the noise with things, which is something I like to do a lot. So we can increase the noise with, say, the LFO2 movement. So if we push it this way, that's going to increase the noise this way. Or decrease it. Yeah, I like that. A little subtle addition to the noise. Okay, that is pretty much the sound, right? That's the backbone of the sound. Everything else that I'm doing within it is a little bit of processing and then a bit of automation. So what I'm going to do, instead of showing you all the automation individually, because it would take a really long time, and I think this video is quite long already, is I'm just going to show you what I've done on the original here. Okay, so if we go through the processing of what we've done here, so just ignore this section for the minute. I've got this amp on here, so I just turn this off. You hear it's bringing out more of the high end. I love this plugin. I use it way too much, as you probably seen in most of the videos. But yeah, it's really nice, this blues preset. I haven't done much else. I think I just decreased the presence a bit, which is kind of the highs. And then I'm automating the dry wet on it to make it more aggressive. Also, it's important you put it on dual, otherwise you're going to get rid of all that mono, all that side information that we've added with reverb and delay. There, it's down the middle. Now it's panning. The next thing that I've done here is I've added a glue compressor. Quite aggressive settings, so the attack's really quick, the release is really quick, so it's grabbing those peaks quite aggressively, and then I'm just making up for the volume. There's moments in this sound where it gets very loud and aggressive, and I wanted to really push down on that. So yeah, that's all I've done there, and then we got a little bit of EQ here. So I'll just turn these on and off. You're not going to notice much of a difference, probably just volume. So the volume is very dynamic, which is kind of a good thing, but I want a little bit of control there. So that's basically what I've done with this compressor. And the EQ is just taming a little bit of the highs, nothing crazy there. And then getting rid of the sub, because we don't need any sub in this. It's all a mid-bass sound. It's all this area. Okay, a little bit of saturation, nothing crazy, just the saturator from Ableton. Pushing the drive by 3, and then we're just taking the volume down. This is only at 50%, so it's not doing anything too crazy. Probably not even going to notice much of a difference, just like a little 5%. Next thing is a little bit of OTT. We got 14%. This is just the standard OTT that we have here. I haven't changed anything on it, just reduced the percentage down to 14%. The whole idea with kind of all of this processing here is to compress the sound. I'm making it feel full without it having loads of peaks. It's also bringing out, so when you compress something, it brings out more harmonics. It makes something feel bigger than it is. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to achieve with the sound. Okay, cool. So now we've gone through the processing. Let's just go through the crazy automation. So First, let's look at what I'm doing with the notes. So they start off like this, and this is a very good way to introduce your lead. Make sure that you're not just playing the full melody straight away, just like an introduction part of the melody. Maybe take some of the notes away like this. So it's like the half melody here, then this is the full melody, and then when we have the drop, I start just sustaining the notes a little bit. And the reason I'm doing that is just so that the ARP that I have put onto the sound here will then start engaging. If the note is really short, then the arpeggio is not going to do anything. Okay, so with the arpeggio, all that I did is I pressed record, and I was just turning it on and off as it was working through. The settings that I have here is I've got it on random, so it's randomly going to move up and down in terms of like the direction that it's going to go. And then I've got it on this 16 notes here, and it's stepping up by one, so it's gonna go up an octave sometimes. And it's just kind of like adding a bit of movement and a bit of change and a bit of difference in the sound. It's not something that I would constantly have on the sound. Just every now and again we have it going on. This is also covered in the Melodic House course. This is the same trick that we did there. The other automation that we have here is quite a lot. It's quite extensive. Basically, what I do with automation is just try to like play around with things as the sound's going, and I'm just like jamming along, and I'll just find things that sound nice as I'm automating them, so as I'm moving them. So for example, say if we're just listening through, start playing with this. Sounds pretty cool. All right, let's maybe try the attack here. That sounds pretty cool also. That sounds really cool. Similar effect with the cutoff. And there's all these things here that we can be playing around with. So you just kind of find things that you're like, oh yeah, that sounds cool, that sounds cool. And then just kind of record them as it's cycling through the track. And kind of do a long performance of it, and the sound will feel like it keeps evolving. And I just did that, 5 or 6 times with 5 or 6 different things. And it makes the track sound nice and interesting. So just to go over the things that I'm automating, we have the cutoff filter, which is this one here. The frequency mod depth 2, which I believe is this one. Yeah, it's this one, which is the LFO that we set up. So that's just going to be adding more movement every now and again. The decay, that's the one that I showed you here. So it's this one. We have the shape, which is the shape of oscillator 2. So this here. So it's changing it from a sawtooth to a square wave, right? Let's have a listen to that. Very subtle little change because of the majority of the sound is kind of coming from this oscillator 1. But it's a little change, that little 2%, something like that, which just makes the sound feel alive. And then we have, so yeah, the tuning on oscillator 1. So let's have a listen to that. Right, really changes the sound. It's basically just moving the sound up an octave and down, which is a nice, interesting way of adding interest. And then the noise here. So we're just increasing the noise. Pretty self-explanatory. It's just this sound, noise, and then the attack. This is a cool little one. So it gives it that kind of like walking with elephant sound, or that horn sound. And if you really like that sound, you could keep it there the whole time. That's a really cool, interesting sound, but it's nice to kind of play around with that. So yeah, they are all the things that I'm automating, along with the dry wet here on the drive, on the amp. Just bear in mind with automation, there's so many things you can do to keep the sound interesting. If you're just keeping it flat and kind of, I don't want to say boring, but the same all the way through, it will get a bit boring if you're not doing a lot of other things in the track. If it's a big main sound like this, it's good to just at least explore with the different things that you can play around with. Even if you don't know what it does, just move it up and down, and if you like the sound of it, then try and record that in. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, that is all that I have to show on this sound. I can't think of anything else here. Doing a little bit of automation on the reverb, just on drops. So it's just bringing the sound into this return channel reverb here, which is the standard reverb in Ableton. I'm just increasing that, and it's just going to add more tension here. There we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and it inspired you to play around in sound design, and I will catch you in the next video.